everyone, welcome to Culture Shock 201. I'm Daryl with my co-host Nitish and two special guests in the studio. Today we will be discussing one of anthropology's central moral topics, something which has stirred global controversy and fiercely debated as a violation of human rights.
We are talking about female genital mutilation, or FGM. With us today we have Miss Sarah, an anthropologist researching into Egypt's FGM, and Miss Shan, an anti-FGM feminist. I can't wait to get started. So, what is FGM exactly? Let us watch a short clip that will introduce us to FGM.
FGM is a centuries-old ritual predominantly practiced within African countries and to a smaller extent in the Middle East, Asia, and in diasporic communities in Europe, like England. It involves the ritual removal of either some or all of the external female genitalia. Today, according to the World Health Organization, approximately 125 million females across 29 countries globally have been circumcised.
There are three types of mutilation. Type 1, known as clitorectodermy, consists of partial or complete removal of the clitoris. Type 2, excision, involves the removal of the inner labia. And most severe form of type 3, known as infibulation, involves the removal of both the inner and outer labia and the closure of the vulva. Think of it as sewing the female genitals and allowing only a small hole for the discharge of body fluids. Or in some cases, completely sewn up and only open for intercourse and childbirth. Girls are traditionally circumcised from birth by either a medical professional or an elderly woman in the family with or without the use of anesthesia.
So, Miss Shan, are there any health consequences associated with FGM?
Well, unlike male genital mutilation, which has benefits like decreased risk of penile cancer or the prevention of penile problems, FGM has been said to have no health benefits and has been causing more harm than good. It causes many health-related problems, for instance, chronic pain, the inability to get pregnant, and for others, complications during childbirth and fatal bleeding. Also, the risk of potentially fatal infections such as HIV or STDs is raised as instruments such as unsanitized kitchen knives and rags are used while being shared across many girls. Post-operation, the girls' legs will be tied up to aid in the healing process. That's what they say, but it's as though they haven't tortured them enough. They are emotionally scarred for life, as it is difficult to forget the psychological trauma they had undergone when they are merely adolescents.
Interestingly, in spite of the pain, trauma, and other adverse health and mental effects, FGM is a practice that continues to be sustained by women of the community. Why is that so?
There is often a very pervasive oppression of women in countries like Egypt and Nigeria, where FGM is most concentrated in. It is seen as a way to maintain their purity and preserve their virginity, especially in practices like clitoridectomy, excision, and infibulation, where either parts or all of the clitoris is removed. The women are denied the capacity to feel sexual pleasure and are thus seen as pure. When they are seen as pure, they are therefore marriageable and honorable. Failure to be circumcised actually renders them socially ostracized. In some societies, FGM is considered as an initiation into adulthood even. Additionally, the general perception is that the clitoris is seen as unpleasant and uncircumcised, and is therefore not hygienic. Also, it has been reported that the men in these communities actually prefer women who have been circumcised as it is more sexually pleasing for them.
So, I agree. There are also misconceptions that FGM has its roots in religion, particularly that of Islam. In reality, however, FGM is an ancient cultural practice within Africa and parts of the Middle East, predating the Abrahamic faith. However, due to the lack of awareness and education, it is often confused as something mandated by faith by the people.
Exactly, it's a very fine line and they often mix the two up. The fact that FGM continues to persist in spite of the very glaring health concerns just shows how deeply entrenched the cultural belief can be and how challenging it can be to change the perceptions. The procedures and reasons for FGM varies across the communities, but as we have discussed earlier, it is largely a very male-centric practice that is rooted in gender inequality.
Thank you, Shan and Sarah, for your candid sharing in our session today. Nitish, shall we do a quick roundup of the topics discussed?
Yep, definitely. There are two sides to the FGM argument. Critics have opposed it on the grounds of contribution of human rights, while anthropologists encourage a more cultural, relativist perspective. In December 2012, a resolution was passed by the UN General Assembly to ban FGM, and various other anti-FGM organizations have been established. such as the Desert Flower Foundation and Daughters of Eve Foundation. Are either sides valid?
From an anthropological perspective on culture, we are encouraged to be cultural relativists. This means that we should analyze and appreciate a culture within its own cultural context and not measure it against our own measures of judgment and standards. However, a discussion on an issue as controversial as FGM begets the following question. Are we to be cultural relativists in all circumstances, or do universal moral standards also come into play? Are we being ethnocentric if we condemn it?
In practices such as FGM, where there are clear compromises on an individual's health and well-being, we feel that cultural relativism should not be exercised indiscriminately, while we can acknowledge the cultural significance of FGM within African communities. Such does not necessarily imply that we should not condone it or allow it to persist, in light of glaring human rights violations.
Thank you
Thank
for your
you.
perspectives.
Thank you.